In this film, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson portrays a toughened criminal who, along with his brother, works as a getaway driver for heists. After a robbery, a rival gang tries to steal their loot, leading to a tragic turn of events where his brother is killed, and he survives a gunshot to the head. He is sentenced to 10 years in prison, but his thirst for vengeance remains undiminished. A hulking, inked man restlessly traverses the cell, eager for his imminent release. Inside the prison, a mysterious photo on the wall hints at his past. Upon his release, he's known simply as Driver. As the warden imparts wisdom and offers his business card to the former inmates, the driver's singular focus becomes clear the moment he steps outside, finding the quickest exit. Without a second thought, he discards the business card and embarks on a stroll along the open highway, savoring his newfound freedom. He locates his vintage Chevrolet Chevelle SS, packed with crucial information and a hidden revolver. Unfamiliar with traffic norms, he boldly navigates through highway congestion to reach his first target, a violent encounter captured on security cameras. In another scene, a man at a roadside motel buys illegal substances after a dispute with the dealer. The dealer expresses dissatisfaction with the payment, leading to a brief dispute until the buyer convinces the dealer to reach a compromise. We then shift back to Driver's crime scene, where the driver took the man's life, now swarming with cops, including Cop, a detective nearing retirement, who's paired up with a female detective for an investigation. Driver arrives at a modest office. In a dim room, two men watch a TV report on a clerk's murder. Inside, one man comments on the victim, labeling him as troublesome. He demands money for a car left by the driver's ex-prisoner brother. After payment, the driver asks for the names of others linked to his brother's death. The informant demands a higher price, unleashing a formidable bodyguard who, upon seeing a tattoo on Driver's arm, has a change of heart. The informant recognizes Driver but expresses that the hero's brother is not his concern. He nervously labels Driver as a ghost and leaves without his bodyguard, now more cooperative and offering modest compensation. At the police station, the cop and his newly assigned partner, Cicero, review surveillance footage from the office where the first victim was fatally attacked by the avenging driver. They observed that the killer and the clerk had an evident connection by the conversation's conclusion. Cop receives a call from his son's mother, asking him to take their child to a baseball game. Meanwhile, Driver moves on to his next target. We meet a character named Killer, who lives in an opulent home with his girlfriend and practices an intense form of yoga. On the walls of the killer's hideout, a gallery of photographs showcases his accomplishments and magazine covers that highlight his successful career. Additionally, it is disclosed that the killer faced leg issues during his childhood. He receives a new assignment via phone, a client providing a photo of the driver. Without delay, the killer prepares to act, readies himself, and departs. He claims to be a tumor-removing surgeon, while the skeptical doctor carries on with the session. Meanwhile, a killer observes an old man's suspicious behavior. Detective Cicero examines a photo of the driver's tattoo and shares a picture of the driver, identified through surveillance and the prison warden's testimony. Upon spotting the driver, it becomes evident that the man had been earning money in prison through illicit activities. Cicero informs the cop that the driver was arrested a decade ago for his role as a getaway driver in a bank robbery, showcasing the gang's evasion skills and the driver's impressive reverse driving abilities. The old man returns home with a young woman who's assisting him in carrying groceries, and the driver arrives at the house while the killer finishes a call with a therapist and prepares a weapon. As he exits the car, he reveals to the doctor that he's off his medication, ignoring the therapist's advice. The driver proceeds towards the old man's place, with the killer shadowing him through the door. Simultaneously, the old man adds something to his caregiver's drink, waiting for her to pass out. Elderly thug claims innocence but gets shot. The driver escapes with the girl's help. Flashback. Thugs force brother to reveal money's location, leading to murder. A bullet pierces the hero, but a miraculous recovery with a metal plate occurs. He rushes to pick up his son, facing custody threats from his ex-wife. Cop reassures his disinterested son about baseball, but duty calls. Son gets upset, but dad stays for the game, seeking his son's approval. At the crime scene, it's revealed that the murdered old man had filmed illicit tapes, capturing the death of the man's brother. Officers acknowledge the shootout but are clueless about the second shooter. The killer, impressed by the man's resilience, proposes to his girlfriend over the phone, saying, "Marry me, Lily." She smiles, saying yes. The next day at the station, Cicero notices an unfamiliar tattoo on the cop's arm. Cop reveals he used to serve in the notorious Los Angeles homicide squad, where he met his ex-wife Marina, who acted as his informant. He had also been in rehab for addiction. Seeing Cicero's odd looks, he explains it's all in the past, claiming he got clean when his son was born. Meanwhile, from his car, the driver watches his next target, a woman and her son. Armed, he enters her home, but to his surprise, she's feeding a baby during their conversation. After being slapped, the hero discovers his assailant is not his target, but his ex-wife. During his prison sentence, she couldn't visit him, and he mistakenly thinks the boy he saw was his son. She has moved on and had an abortion, leaving him devastated. He continues his path of vengeance, and his former lover wishes him luck. Amid the unfolding drama, the killer plans a fancy wedding with Lily. There are thrilling car races and a beautiful ceremony. He offers a new beginning in Pasadena and promises to quit his deadly job. Meanwhile, the cop visits Marina, suggesting they restart their lives together, but she's moved on. She's pursuing a degree and aiming for a better life. The cop even offers his stash of illegal substances, but insists on finishing the case before rehab. He just wants one day with his ex-wife and son. Pausing before giving her answer, she tunes into the radio. The driver, on a mission, parks outside a strip club. Inside, he confronts his target, the security guard who murdered his brother. After a brief chat, the killer instructs the elderly man Joe to exit discreetly. The door locks and a knife fight begins. The driver emerges victorious, and the murderer apologizes, requesting a message to his son. The driver fulfills his request, leaving the wounded man in the car. Apologies from the father on the couch. The killer glances at old photos, including childhood memories and leg scars, causing an intense reaction. He hurriedly polishes his weapon, noticed by Lily. She urges him to quit, but he insists on completing the job. Meanwhile, the cop wakes up with his son, who expresses disinterest in baseball. The dad encourages practice, proposing a game together despite his limited baseball skills. Later, he stumbles upon Marina, deeply intoxicated in the bathroom. She confesses her fear of spiraling into hell due to the pain they inflict on each other. He discards the remaining substances and falls asleep with her. The fourth day begins with both the cop and killer leaving home, visibly troubled. A call from Cicero reveals their victims were police informants linked to his brother's murder. Cicero urges him to investigate, but he prioritizes a stabbing victim from Henderson. After hearing about the injured murderer on the radio, the driver rushes to the hospital. The killer's client reveals the driver's survival, prompting plans to complete the job. He reaches the clinic first, rushing to the operating room, and swiftly shoots his target without hesitation. Hearing gunshots, the cop rushes into the scene and chases the driver into the basement, where a fierce gunfight ensues. The driver momentarily gains the upper hand when he closes his eyes, and the driver escapes. The driver receives a call from his brother's murderer's son, who threatens revenge. The killer catches up briefly but is shot in the neck. The driver shoots his tire and escapes. Frustrated, the killer learns the assignment is canceled from the client's call. The killer remains resolute, refusing to abandon his last job. The driver, suspecting betrayal, visits his late father's home and finds only his mother, who tends to his wounds. He explains the bank heist was to clear Gary's debts, driven by brotherly loyalty. After collecting his brother's ashes, he heads to his next target, pondering who set them up. At the police station, cop recounts his encounter with the driver to his partner and reviews a list of the driver's targets, mostly informants with light sentences. Driver reaches his final target, a traveling preacher whose sermons he's heard during his journey are conducted from a mobile temple tent. Upon arrival, the driver patiently awaits the sermon's end before talking to the reformed preacher. The preacher had forsaken his wicked past and now guides others. During the driver and his brother's capture, the preacher prevented their execution. While taking a stroll, the preacher's unexpected family visit surprises the driver, who's torn between seeking revenge on their final journey to the shore. As they converse, the preacher reveals he adopted 5 children and regrets his past of easy money through illicit means. After serving time in jail, he turned to faith. The driver hesitates but ultimately spares the preacher, letting him reunite with his family. Meanwhile, he heads back to the temple tent, where the killer awaits, armed and ready. The driver remains composed, expressing no ill will. The killer disarms him, pointing the gun at his head, seeking acknowledgement of his skills. Spotting a list near the driver, the mercenary suggests an unmentioned name, the one who hired him. Meanwhile, a newly arrived cop silently approaches. He orders the killer to drop his weapon, revealing himself as the one who hired the hit. He shoots the driver, explaining he intervened when the mercenary failed. Killer reveals the list, noting the driver's unawareness of the cop. Cop knew when spared in the clinic basement. Gary's girlfriend unexpectedly turned out to be the investigator's mole, exposing the gang's illegal activities. With the help of other informants, the cops recovered the stolen money. During the intense story, the killer left, but the cop caught up, offering payment for the job. Surprisingly, the young man only accepted $1, treating contract killing as a hobby. However, he declined the money since he hadn't killed the target. As Cicero reaches the crime scene, she connects the dots. Each informant was overseen by her colleague, her partner. The truth unfolds. After a call to his ex-wife, the cop's hopeful mood is shattered by a sudden gunshot. The driver, with a steel plate in his head, survives the attack. The killer reunites with his wife, and Cicero discovers the cop's lifeless body. Sunset arrives as the driver scatters his brother's ashes and heads toward the horizon, contemplating forgiveness as a preacher passionately addresses his congregation.